Hello and welcome to the Talk It Podcast. I'm your host Ryan, and join me we have Hunted and Squid. How are you guys doing?
Hey man, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing all right, I gotta say. I've had some worse moments, and I finally got some of my homework stowed away for the day, so I'm happy to be here. And having that stress off my back, let me tell you, it always feels like at the end of the week on Friday, it feels like I'm forgetting something, and it's so nice not to have that worry anymore.
Oh man,
And I'm like 8 years removed from school or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
homework for me. I mean, unless you count all of the prep work we have to do for broadcast, I kind of consider that homework. But that's kind of
it's
fun.
not the
I
same.
enjoy
That's not
Yeah.
stressful like homework
No.
is.
Not,
I do enjoy that.
Maybe not.
Homework adds like a different kind of stress to your life. So, yeah, I'm all happy for people who don't have to deal with that, and I'm happy I don't have to deal with that. So, but we do have a couple things here to discuss today. So let's just jump right on into it, guys. First up on the docket, we're going to be talking about the North American Regional so far and, kind of what's happening with the group stage at the moment. They just completed it today. So they're in Group A. We have NRG, Kansas City Pioneers, Pittsburgh Knights, Oxygen Esports, and Stromboli. If you're listening on podcast services, we'll try our best to, explain as we're talking. But if you're watching, it's a heck of a lot easier for you now. Just because you can see everything. So Group A, guys, is this the final standings y'all were expecting?
That's a tough question to answer. I think there's some upsets that happened. I think there's some expected results. Like that Group A bracket's a really tough bracket. You've got, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that Stromboli's the first team out in that group, but like the Pioneers, they went 3-1. I think they were undefeated through day one, and they lost today.
Yeah, they lost today against NRG.
Yeah,
which that's an expected result too for them, though.
Yes.
Sure. I think Oxygen might have underperformed. Like you kind of put them Oxygen, PK. Where, who do you, I think that's a coin flip at times. But the rest of the bracket. Actually, really interesting, because I cover United stuff. I was very surprised when 72PC actually beat Alpine. I can't believe Alpine is actually out of the tournament.
Man,
we went to 5 games with them in the first round of the tournament, and that was a bit of a disappointment. I think that United should have won that series, but When I saw the final results, that Alpine of all teams was the team that is gone, and it's the Sonics who 3-1 through everything. I was a bit surprised.
Alpine even posted a tweet that I retweeted today when I saw those results.
Oh, right.
Because they posted whenever the groups were published, they were like, "Oh, this is the easiest group of our lives."
Oh, trust me, I know. Yes. We were talking about it prior to the.
Because I had seen it, and then I saw this today. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back and retweet that right now."
Right, right. Well, this actually, though, let's go back to what we did on the last podcast, right? Because we were talking about the discrepancy that we have, and of course, every game is more important. But this is the result that I was afraid of, right? Is we're gonna get one of those teams, three teams in that group: United, 72PC, and Alpine, all go 1-3. But Alpine got the short end of the stick, because they had a bit worse of a performance on the day within each individual series. Normally, where the series is weighted much, much more, this was the concern that I was going to have, is that Alpine, they go 1-3, 2 other teams go 1-3, but they're the ones who go out. And it's a similar story here. Pittsburgh actually 2-2, -1. In Group A, we're talking about the results there. I'm presently not really that surprised, but that's kind of what you would want to see, right? Is a 4-0, a 3-1, a 2-2, a 1-3, and an 0-4. Everybody's happy. Nobody's like, oh, we just got destroyed by game.
Yeah.
Well, right? But see, we talked about it on the broadcast. I'm sorry to cut you off. We talked about losing 3-2 like United did to Alpine is a much better result than getting swept, for instance.
Yeah,
like,
twice.
Twice
they were
72
swept.
PC, like 72 PC, United won the first 2 games. We were talking about like 72 PC had, they got swept in the first round. This is like a must win. They have to win a couple of games at the very least, or at least a game, to salvage the series. So that's what they did. They ended up winning a game, and they lost in 4. But, ultimately, you look at it, and Alpine, the only series they won in 5 games, and everything else, they just couldn't get anything started. And
Yeah.
You can't say that for United, who again lost, in 5 games. And the only series that I think EU played poorly in was the Sonic series.
Right.
It looked like they were kind of lost on the pitch, and Shock, does what Shock does. So, but it was fun to watch Dapper in the lineup. I think Dap still can contribute at the highest level, and I think I said this before, and I'm going to say it again, that I think if you give this team time, especially now, hopefully Dapper will stick, and there's not going to be another huge roster change again. I think if you give them time, they could be very good.
Yeah. I think they're in Group B. The team that surprised me the most is probably the Sonics. T. Carell showing to be a really good pickup for these guys.
I'm gonna disagree. I don't
really.
Think it was a surprise.
I have been very impressed with T. Carell's performance just in general lately.
Well, but that's what I mean. T. Carell, ever since he's joined the team, it's only gotten better and better. And Shock finally seems like he's found a place to play where he can do the things that he wants to do and have teammates that can also support him. Like, I'm not surprised that the Sonics second place through the group. If they would have beat Envy and topped out of the bracket, yeah, I would be surprised. But
I used to cast for the Sonics back in the fall split, and to see like where they were to where they are now in terms of like their play style in general, like they just feel like such a different team. So for me, like I'm more surprised just to see how much growth these guys have had. And I know I really shouldn't be because I have watched that growth happen. But it's just interesting to me to see how far this team has come. They're one of those teams here in North America, at least, that you can say like you've definitely seen a gradual improvement. Them and version 1 are 2 teams that I would definitely agree you've seen improvements since the beginning of RLCSX.
Yeah. I still think that 72 PC should be thankful that they scraped out of that bracket.
Absolutely.
I was surprised again to see Alpine. I was worried for United. I thought United, if they didn't have a good series against Envy, it could have been them out. But with Alpine gone, I mean, I think that's the big surprise. I don't think you should be surprised with the Sonics succeeding finally. And
I don't know.
72 PC. I don't know.
I agree. I think that the only real upset here is Sonics beating out Alpine. Honestly, I think that was just more for the bracket.
I think I'm just more surprised because when you look at the results, the Sonics just look like they did really well, and I think that's more what I think mentally I'm just surprised when I look at their record compared to everybody else's because I didn't expect them to.
Let's be fair. The Sonics had probably the easiest bracket out of literally anybody.
Well, Alpine thought they had the easiest bracket.
Well, the Sonics and Alpine both had extremely easy brackets when you look at the other groups.
Yeah.
And average skill. Like as much as I don't mean to hate on United, but I don't think they're quite there yet. And they're playing with another. They've changed their roster twice this season, and I'm not surprised that they're struggling a little bit. But I mean I think what we should be talking about is Space Station, and
yes,
I'm even gonna say Rogue getting fucking swept by XSET. What is that?
Well, here let's just take a step over to Group C, then we'll look at Group D. So Group C, FaZe Clan version 1, Charlotte Phoenix, Space Station Gaming, and Pride Stark Empire. I don't even know who's on Pride Stark Empire. I haven't actually looked, but them being Splashy, Porklet, Shark, they're not bad players, but it's not surprising to see them be out of that group. That's a tough group.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Charlotte Phoenix being the worst one in the group, and especially considering how they played on the day, I think that it's fair that Pride Stark goes 0-4 out of that group. But as Hunted said, the big story here is Space Station, or honestly, at this point, I'm ready to say, like, in this performance, I would be ready to call them Shit Station Gaming. I mean, what the frankly, pardon my French, but what the fuck is that? 1-3 in groups for SSG? Remember at one point in time, these guys were, like, undisputedly, like, the gods of
back in fall split.
back in the fall split not even a year ago, not even half a year ago.
Now, the funny part is we talked about this at length last week. That I still think that the fact that we played so many games just for 4 teams total to get eliminated is dumb. And Space Station is one of those teams that is very lucky that that's the case because they're still playing. Like, you know, they go 1-3 on the day or in their group, and they had a strong group like FaZe 4O's through that, and version 1 is playing well, thankfully. So I mean, it's funny, like how you're. I mean, my opinion hasn't changed. I still think it's dumb that only 4 teams are gone, but it's like such a difference. Like EU, you look at the things, you're like, well, this is kind of stupid. There are still some terrible teams that are left. Like, why are we doing this? And now it's like Space Station, like Oxygen. I don't know. It's just kind of funny how it all works out.
Well, Space Station, it's just surprising. Like, they lost against Charlotte Phoenix. That's a team that they should be 3-0ing, honestly. But I mean, what was it, Squid? You were even mentioning too, though, how it's like they don't lose to the Peeps now FaZe.
No,
they don't lose to them.
And I think that what I am going to say is that for FaZe here, I think that they might have some of that org bolstering, right? How many times is it that we've seen a team? It's like, oh yeah, they're okay.
Yeah, they're riding like a morale high today. Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
That's
and I think that's kind of the case for them, and I think that actually goes for Oxygen and Charlotte Phoenix as well. I feel like they're still kind of riding that high as well. So I think that might be part of the reason why Charlotte Phoenix kind of performed as well as they did. But yeah, for FaZe, I mean, the Peeps have been unsponsored for, ever since PK dropped them, late last year, I think it was, sometime around, I can't remember, like August?
It was
maybe?
A while ago, yeah.
Well, let's
I don't remember. But I'm looking here at the bracket here for Space Station. They do have to play off against United, and then the loser of quarterfinal match 4, which, if I'm not mistaken, is FaZe Clan versus Sonics. That's still dangerous. With the way that Sonics performed here in their group, it's not impossible to say that the Sonics could upset Space Station if they're playing poorly.
August 6th of 2020.
There you go.
Is when the Peeps were reformed.
Dang.
Right.
But yeah, the saddest result of Group C, I would say, is definitely Space Station Gaming.
Oh yeah,
that's not. And it is a tough group, and I mean, at the end of the day, like version 1 and FaZe Clan, I'm not super surprised to see them lose against them, but at the same time, those are still teams that like they have still beaten plenty of times towards like they should still take them.
Right.
But I mean, Charlotte Phoenix, I think, is the biggest surprise loss there for me.
They did still have the 2 Game 5 losses. It was 3-2 versus version 1, 3-2 versus Charlotte Phoenix. Which, granted, give them a little bit more credit in a format that's supposed to emphasize the importance of the game.
It was OT against version 1 in Game 5. They lost. And then against FaZe Clan, they lost that 3-1.
Now, when was the last time we've actually seen Space Station? I mean, besides, obviously, yesterday. But when was the last time we saw Space Station play version 1? Because I know they lost to Rogue.
Let me check their page real quick.
And even the Peeps, really. When was the last time? Because in the Major, they never played them. Either of the 2 teams. And they lost to... NRG and Rogue did Space Station. I'm wondering if really this should be a surprise or not, considering. I mean,
they maybe don't play as often against each other as we think.
Well, I'm looking at their 5 previous results, and these are in varying degrees of tournaments, grid, summit, stuff like that. And in 4 of those 5 previous results that Space Station has against version 1, they went the distance all the way, Game 5, Game 7, what have you. And the one result they didn't was still a 3-1 in favor of Space Station. So
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, I know that our conversations have been heated about who's best in North America right now, but maybe we're kind of in that time period where we don't actually really know because we don't have the sufficient amount of results to necessarily place teams where they should be, or it's an inconsistency problem, something like that. I mean, version 1, again, I'm so happy that they're doing well because I literally said that they would like 2 splits ago,
I'm glad to see them doing well as well.
Yeah.
And, like their recent results are really, really strong. I mean, yeah, they've lost to now the Peeps/FaZe twice in a row because they lost in the major to the Peeps. I think it was 4-1 or 2.
But you are right, though. The team has definitely been showing very promising results.
Well, right. I mean, NRG, they took them to 5 games in the winners' quarterfinals of the major. And, I don't know if we should be surprised that version 1 is beating Space Station. Like, I think, honestly, true. I think Group D, if Group A is not the toughest group, Group D, C, where Space Station is, I think that might be the big bad group of.
I would argue Group C is the hardest group. I think. Yes. I had an easier time. I think that Group A is about what I expected, minus Oxygen. Oxygen, they always do well in group stages, and they just didn't this time, surprisingly. But Group C, this is the one that I couldn't really peg what I thought the final outcome was going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love it, dude. I'm glad that we have, I'm glad that I can sit here and say that I think X Team is top 4, and we don't really know for sure.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it's getting more and more like that, where it's like, beyond the points, it's getting harder.
I mean, on that topic though, let's shift over to Group D. Where Hunted, you were adamantly against the fact that Rogue was guaranteed top 4 last week, and that seems to be proven here. Or it was it 2 weeks ago? I can't recall. We had a heated debate about it.
It was last week. We had that argument.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago because I remember last week we were trying to keep it short, so we didn't have time.
Yes,
for that.
you are right. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, because Sleeky was here. Yeah, that's why.
Right. So this group stage, Rogue 3-0'd by Xset. That's really the big story. They lost to G2 as well in 5 games, which is a little bit closer. And, it's a top team in G2, so to be expected that they go...
Hold on. You
cannot, all right.
You cannot say...
Time out. Stop.
They lose in 5 games to G2. That's... No, dude, how much were you guys shitting on G2 literally a week ago? And now it's
I understand what I just said. I understand what I just said explicitly is contradictory, but my point is G2 is much more established than Xset. So for Rogue to lose out to G2 is much more expected. Xset is the big story. Rogue losing out 3-0 to Xset. That's the point I was trying to make. This is not the result.
I love how quick Hunted was like coming in to just try and hammer you for that.
He just wants to shit on my dream. He just wants to shit on my dreams of Rogue being the number 1. All right, he really does.
It's wild to me how literally 2 weeks ago, because of 2 performances, we were saying, "Oh, Rogue is the next fucking dynasty team in North America." There's no way that Rogue loses another goddamn series ever again.
I never said that they never lose a series. I did claim that they could be a dynasty team, and I still think that they could be. I think that they're on.
The argument
when they give me consistent results.
The argument we had then wasn't them over being a dynasty team, just if they were top 4. I do not believe this is a dynasty team.
Ryan, can you? I'm trying to create content for our podcast. Why do you have to ruin it?
Shut up!
No, because it makes me look bad when you say it that way. Because it makes it look as if I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, when you guys have bad takes, I mean,
Rogue being a top 4 team. Okay,
let's just talk
shitty
about
performance here. I will give you that.
Xset. They still
Rogue, you didn't help me.
The top 2 on their group though. They still made it the top 2 on their group, so they still managed that. But losing to J-Pow, Alpha Cap, Hoxer. I don't mean any disrespect to those guys, but Rogue is not a team that should be losing to Alpha Cap, J-Pow, and Hoxer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Especially not in a 3-0 sweep.
I don't think anybody in that group, well, I mean, I guess...
It's the same thing of, like, you don't really want to say, like, oh, Oxygen, Charlotte, Xset, you don't really want to say, like, these are bad teams, but at the same time, you also have to acknowledge, like, yeah, they are a step below in terms of caliber from what you expect from these other teams. So it's like, I mean,
think about it in terms of point rankings. I mean, Rogue is top 6. They're on their way to World to this point.
I think they're top 4 now.
They're not even in there, right? They're not even in the conversation as of right now.
Yeah, no, they're not.
And neither is Nefarious, and neither really is Ghost. Well, I guess Ghost is a little bit closer.
I mean, you got the
they're
number
closer,
4
but still not
14 in Xset in terms of world rankings.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Rogue shouldn't be losing to Xset. Rogue shouldn't be losing to Ghost. Rogue shouldn't be losing to Nefarious. And they didn't. They won 2 of the 3 games they should have won. And I didn't get a chance to watch the Xset game. Oh, actually, I don't think anybody did. I think that was an off-stream game. So
A lot of off-stream games. I didn't like that part. I really wish they would have kept the team streams going today as well, because I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see more of these.
Well, no. So the problem is though, like if they did that, like for us at United, we would stream 1 game. Like that's
fair. That's fair.
Maybe. If
but it's also like that. It's the same
across,
thing.
Like one day.
It's the same thing though for some teams that. Well, no, everybody would have played 2 games yesterday. They would have streamed
2 yesterday. Yeah,
everybody did 2
you're right.
games
I mean,
yesterday. But I don't know.
Exactly.
I just would have liked to have still seen.
I agree.
If your team has 2 games,
better,
like you're able to stream, then I would at least like something like that.
Or what would be really cool, Ryan, is if they went and did. If they had these groups of 5, but they made everybody play twice, and then you eliminated 2 teams from each group.
All right. Let's stop it. Let's stop it with the pedantics. Come on.
But I'm just saying. I mean, you solve two birds, 1 stone right here. But I don't know. Ultimately, I think. I don't know. I wish we could watch that series. I know the replays exist. I actually probably will watch it when I go and do my stat collecting, but
I was just sad I didn't
bad
get to see
loss
2
for
NBA
Rogue.
games.
Well, I mean, doesn't matter. They win them anyway. So,
well, let's talk about what we got coming up here for the knockout gauntlet. We didn't really touch on that much here, but as I mentioned earlier, FaZe Clan and Sonic's gonna be playing off here in match 4. KCP versus G2. I could see KCP making it playoffs in 1 series on that.
I could see that being a really good one. Energy playing Rogue though for the first round.
Well, it is in the top side. It's not an
like they're in the top side, but it still is like that's not. That's a tough game.
For Rogue though, I mean, their
their
losers quarterfinal match is going to be against the winner of Charlotte Phoenix and 72 PC, which that's kind of a shoo-in in my book. But we already saw a shoo-in match in Xset. They played earlier.
Yeah, as long as Xset's not there, I think Rogue's okay.
As long as Xset's not there, as long as they don't screw it up. All right. And this is kind of the question mark, right? If I can, I would like to say that my argument for Rogue being like a top team in the world last time was based on the result they had. 3 4-0 sweeps against really good teams, and then they got iced out, which is still like a subject of debate for basically nobody, actually, but I think about it a couple of times a day. In any case, Rogue, they might be an inconsistent team, if that kind of shows here. I mean, with that loss against Xset, that really is a shaken faith for me. Being a Rogue fan, it's not easy to admit that, but I got to admit it sometimes. So if they do end up faltering to lower down teams, they're just going to randomly get basically assassinated early on from these tournaments if they don't get their act together. I really hope that that's a one-off and not a common theme here.
Well, but a lot of teams are at risk of that, I think, too. I mean, I'm going to play. I'm gonna use my victim complex a little bit right now and say that United, historically, through the last couple of splits, has gotten some really horrible fucking draws with some things. Some groups, some playoff draws have been really bad. It always seems like when a top team like SSG or G2 or NRG, if they have a bad day, like in the grid or whatever, they have a bad day and they lose games they're not supposed to, it's always United who draws them in the playoffs the next day. I don't know why that is. And it happens again. It literally, United gets Space Station in the knockout round 1. And pretty horrible
first matchup for them, honestly.
I mean, compared to literally everything else, you got Charlotte Phoenix, 72 PC, Ghost and Oxygen, PK and Xset. And United gets fucking Space Station. And it's like, I mean,
of all the teams,
he's right though. I mean, I can't argue that.
Over and over and over to United, and it's not on purpose. I'm not gonna sit here and say, actually, that's what I should do. Hot take: Psyonix wants United to fail for some reason. But
I approve.
But I mean, it just as somebody who follows the team as closely as I do, I get kind of pissed when I see, like, of course, we draw Space Station. I mean, United could have changed their fate, right? If they would have won more games, they wouldn't be playing Space Station. I totally get that, but it's still kind of frustrating that this continues to happen.
That's understandable. I mean, originally I was just gonna say, just get good. Like, how are you gonna play off against top teams in the playoffs?
Get good, forehead.
But I mean, you can't argue that. That's just bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is kind of bullshit.
Somebody has to draw them, right? Space Station sucked in the groups.
Well, I mean,
somebody
best case,
has
though,
to draw.
It hurts when it's your team.
Right, United beat Space Station. If United got somebody else, let's say they got Ghost Gaming instead, and they beat Ghost Gaming. I could see that. They move on. They still have to play off against the loser of Envy and version 1, which, frankly, I don't really see that being a very favorable matchup.
Right.
To be frank. Yeah. So, I mean, it was going to happen one way or the other where they're going to have to play off against the top team. Might as well start early.
Well, but see, now they have to go through 2 if you look at it.
However, if United take down Space Station, they'll have to be going into that next game riding a hell of a high there.
I think honestly, it's kind of like a lose-lose, right? If you play against like a worse team, quote unquote, on round 1 there in the losers round 1, then sure, it might be easy for you to get through, but you won't necessarily know how good they're playing or if they'll have that strength. Whereas if they beat Space Station, it's like, a holy shit, even though Space Station is clearly playing like garbage, we beat Space Station, right? So whoever we're coming up against, it's possible, it's doable, certainly. The dream's alive, that kind of thing. So you can't really get the best of both worlds on that one.
I think regardless, it's going to have to be a hell of a day for me United to make it to the weekend,
right?
Or to day 4, whatever. But I don't know. It's I personally, I love it and hate it. Like, I want United to play as many of these games as possible, just because I want to see how their roster handles it, and I'll actually get to watch this one, thankfully, against SSG. So. I don't know. I want to see how DAP fits in when they're playing against the top team, because we didn't get to cast Envy because it was today. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that's the bracket for those of you who are watching. But we find out the rest of this happens tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, tomorrow. So we're gonna find out more about the Knockout Gauntlet and see those results tomorrow. But be sure to tune in and see how that one unfolds. So, lot of interesting results, to say the least there. But we do have some other news. We did touch on it, of course. Peeps picked up by FaZe. FaZe officially joining in on Rocket League. And honestly, there was a piece of me that didn't think FaZe would ever join Rocket League, just because they originated as a first-person shooter org, and that's always kind of what they've stuck with. So I didn't really think they'd ever do Rocket League, but I'm pleasantly surprised.
I think FaZe follows the money, and I would have agreed with you until Team Liquid joined Rocket League, and they picked up a fucking horrible team. But, I mean...
I think that almost... See, if I was an org owner and I saw that pickup, I'd have been scared to come into Rocket League.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Liquid was that team that was always like, people were asking, is Liquid ever going to join? I mean, I remember having conversations with Cloud Fuel years ago about because his connections with Twitch knows a lot of orgs and people inside, and the big thing with Liquid was they were afraid they weren't going to make money, and they've always said they're interested, but they don't see the potential. And now that Liquid is in, I think, or other orgs are like, okay, maybe it's actually worth it to get into Rocket League now. And I think FaZe follows the kind of similar thought process that Liquid does. Yeah, I agree that, they've only ever done FPS games like, Counter-Strike and, of course, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had a PUBG team. I think they did.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I think so.
They were anything that's first-person shooter,
out?
They're in it.
Relatively speaking. There's a lot of first-person shooter games, Ryan.
But in terms of the big esports ones, they're in them. Like PUBG, Fortnite, CS:GO.
Didn't FaZe get into however briefly, didn't they have a MOBA team? Like, didn't they have either a Dota or a
Dota?
League team at one
I
point?
think they might have had a Dota team. I don't know.
Yeah.
They
I
had a
mean, it
Dota
doesn't
team?
really
That
matter.
doesn't
Does it really
seem-
matter that much?
What are you about to say? It doesn't seem what?
Doesn't seem
I
like. I don't
Something
think
they would
I've
go
ever.
for?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something they would go for. But I also just
No.
I don't think I've ever seen them with like a MOBA team.
I
could've
feel like
sworn
I don't know. I don't know that it
have.
fits
I'm
their
100%.
brand, honestly.
I feel like I have seen that. But
I just don't know
can't
that a
quote
MOBA
it,
fits their
you know,
brand
I
at the
can't.
end of the day.
I've never been.
Maybe
too
that's
big
why I
on
have a hard
MOBA.
time seeing it.
I'm still waiting for Evil Geniuses to re-enter Rocket League. You know, I still think it was kind of scummy what they did on their exit by saying, like, we don't want to field a not top-level team. But I still like Evil Geniuses as an org for the most part. They have presence that is unmatched. So
See, I have that old EG rivalry from the StarCraft 2 days. I say fuck them.
let me tell you though, I'm still on the train that the EG rebrand was the worst one in history.
Yeah,
like
well, of
their old
course.
logo had all the power and presence. Now they changed it. But still talking on FaZe though, we do have to mention a little bit of stuff that happened here on Twitter just today, actually. As we're recording this.
Immediately.
Yep, pretty much immediately. So Peeps actually announced before the FaZe drop that they were planning to release merchandise for the Peeps. You know, great. And then when they announced it, there was a little bit of drama in that they released merchandise that was intellectual property of J-Ski. And apparently the org did not know this, and they immediately tried to make amends, so I will give them credit for that. But still, that there was a clear miscommunication between the players and the org on that front. From what we know, I mean, based on FaZe's reputation and what people have said about it, it's not necessarily impossible that they decided just to go forward with it and just hope that J-Ski didn't say anything. I don't think that's what they did, personally. But still, for the players not to mention that, I mean, J-Ski is a long-standing community member. He's respected by a lot of people. You know, I know we're all on that boat, right? He's been massive for the community, and I find that a little bit odd. You know, I feel that that's a little bit of an interesting detail to miss out on.
Yeah,
If you're planning to do a merch drop.
If J-Ski has an issue with it too, that makes you kind of sit there and be like, so did they never pay for the logo from him? Was that just like a goodwill thing that he like kind of lent them, and then they just never paid him across the entire time that they've had that logo? Like, that's kind of terrible looking. They've won a lot of money, and they still didn't pay him for that. Like,
yeah, we actually had this discussion a little bit prior to the podcast, so let's just reiterate: is that basically J-Ski, he wanted to get his work out there. The Peeps didn't really have a formal logo, so he was like, here you go. It was great. You know, that Peeps logo is phenomenal. Hence why FaZe initially planned to use it for their merchandise. As I said, they took it down. That's not a thing anymore. They're probably going to either work something out with
immediately,
or they're going to produce their own merchandising.
And I hate to interrupt you, but just the one thing that works in FaZe's favor of why I think they didn't actually know, and I think they don't deserve a ton of blame here, is because the Peeps have used this logo for how long? Like,
yes.
Yeah, that's why I was saying.
The org, maybe you should. Maybe it's smart business practice to maybe check. But like, I don't think you think about that.
Yeah, they've been using the logo forever, so you assume that they own the logo at this point. But it's like the fact that J-Ski had an issue with it tells you that they probably never paid for that logo, which means they don't own the rights to it. And so it's like, I'm not blaming FaZe for it. I'm blaming the players on the Peeps of like, you guys have won so much money. Why didn't you ever buy the logo? Why did you just not buy the logo from J-Ski at that point?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of want to go both ways in this, because I feel like for FaZe, especially if you're doing your merchandising, you want to have your bases covered. And as smart business, I feel would have probably tried to do that. So I'm putting a little bit of blame on FaZe and a little bit of blame on the players, because they knew, however long ago that they got that logo. Sure, J-Ski made it for them for free, free of charge, and this is still like a bit of an oversight, I think, on both ends. Right, so I feel that I'm kind of saying the players are still young. I will grant them that, and I actually have something of my own to say in that category. But they're still young, so it's kind of a little bit of leeway. But on the business end for FaZe, they've been working out this merchandise drop clearly for a while now, because the Peeps tweeted it prior to the org announcement, and I feel that there is some blame to be had on both sides here, and that should never have happened in the first place.
I mean, I guess the only
real quick, Kendo did have something to mention in chat that is somewhat fair to mention. Intellectual property and rights are sold exclusively to the purchasees unless otherwise stated. It is fine if the peeps want to use it for their own merch, but further rights would have to be purchased for an org to utilize it. So they may have actually bought the logo, but J-Ski probably only gave it to the peeps. He didn't give it to FaZe.
Yes.
So that could have been where the issue was.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, but that's weird though, because think about it. I mean, I agree with Kendo, but at the same time, it's an asset. Like, if we really want to get into it, I mean, this was like literally part of my job for a long time. So if it's an asset that a company then owns, like you might commission a designer to make you a logo, but now your company owns that once you have contractually agreed to it. There's paperwork that backs up the sale, like from that designer, from that firm, whoever makes you the logo. It is now yours to do with as you please. There might be stipulations, like you're not allowed to do XYZ to it because it reflects on the design company, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not allowed to change something.
Yeah, like they added the FaZe logo into the Peeps logo, so that could have been part of the issue.
That could have been it. Yep. But when it comes down to it, like businesses get bought and sold all the time. And typically that the IP, if you will, of the business goes to the acquiring company. So when a merger happens, you know, you might have a logo, you know, think of whoever, like Exxon and Shell. If they merged, Shell buys Exxon, they can then use Exxon's whatever it is, logos, designs, whatever, as their own, in their own way. I mean, I think, of course, the merger is going to talk about that because, you know, Exxon wants to keep its fucking image the way that it is. But it ultimately, like, yes, I agree with Kendo, but at the same time, no, I don't agree with Kendo. Like, it's weird how IP goes. So I don't think they ever bought it from J-Ski straight up. I think J-Ski made it for them. Yeah. But the only thing is, was it a gift? Did J-Ski say, well, I am giving this to you, don't worry about payment, this is yours to have, and then the peeps transfer that to FaZe, and now J-Ski's saying, well, hold on, I didn't know you were going to give it to FaZe, and they were going to print money with it. Like, I think that could be also a thing. I don't know. I don't know the whole story, and J-Ski obviously, you know, deleted his tweet. I don't think he cares that much anymore. It sounds like they're resolving it, but
at the end of the day, the only reason, like, some people may be like, well, why aren't you faulting Jay if it seems like he gave it? The only reason I wouldn't fault Jay in this instance is because he is a professional. Like, he does this stuff for a living. So I imagine that he's got his bases covered on this in terms of when he's giving it away and stuff. If he has an issue with it, it means that there probably was something else going on here that was like, okay, well, that's not what this was for. Like, you can't use it for that. Like, the peeps weren't making money off of that logo. Then if they put it on merch like that, they were probably making money off the logo, which is then an issue.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of legalese. We don't really know.
Well, I do want to add on as well. I mean, we saw this in the past with the peeps. It felt like they want to keep their IP with the Pittsburgh Knights. We saw the Peepsburg shirts being sold. I have one of those. So it does make me question as to whether or not perhaps the peeps keeping their own IP, like their own team brand, kind of intact as they go into the org, right? So they could just be FaZe Clan, right? They could easily just say, like, we just want to be FaZe. But they also kind of clearly, with their merchandise that they chose to use, wanted to retain their personality, so to speak, their team identity as the peeps, right? You know, we are FaZe the peeps. Right?
FaZe peep.
FaZe peeps.
Was there like things like I don't know.
Right. But I mean, this does kind of lead into something else that I do want to talk about. I'm going to make this the first and only time that I really publicly address the fact that peeps, they opted to go a different way with their grid broadcast. Nothing wrong with that. But we did get a little bit of the short end of the stick on that one. You know, Shope7i, along with Bartane and FBI Tugboat, he also did a little bit of work. Bart also helped with the broadcast a ton. Shout outs to all those guys. But we did end up doing the broadcast for free with them for a little bit. And there were some talks of trying to get payment. They ended up declining, and we willingly worked for free for a while. But when it came time to switch broadcasters, you know, we were anticipating that when FaZe picked them up, we assumed that FaZe was going to pick them up. I mean, when they got picked up by FaZe, I don't think anybody was really that surprised. But they ended up going a different way with their broadcast. Everything, it was in their rights to do so. and it's really on us for doing it for free, not really establishing, so to speak. But it's still kind of and this is why I want to say I gave them a little bit of leeway. They're still mostly kids. They don't really know much about the professional world. But we didn't really get any loyalty bonuses, so to speak. It was complete cutoff. I didn't even ever hear from the peeps themselves. They told us we did a great job on the broadcast. We got some feedback directly from them, but they refused to pay because they didn't think it benefited them that much. So it was a little bit, for us, from our point of view, it's not the first, kind of scummy thing that the peeps have allegedly done. And again, I think with this whole graphics thing, I don't necessarily think that's scummy. And at this same juncture, the thing that happened to us with not being on the grid broadcast or their regional broadcast isn't necessarily scummy either. They were within their rights to do it, but it's still kind of like going forward, guys, if you get this message, please try to handle these things more professionally in the future, because it kind of sucks for us from the outside in, So I just want to put that out there and kind of address that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially considering the industry that we're in, it's certainly not an easy one to
find work.
Well, I mean, not just that, but I mean, just literally to survive in. I mean, I've talked to many a caster, and sometimes you have to have the tough conversation with people to, let them know that what they're doing isn't right. And I mean, it's the whole of the community is in a very weird spot, I think, in Rocket League, but as a caster in general, I mean, esports is such a tough industry to do literally anything in and do it for a long time consistently. And I feel bad for you guys that
just kind of got shafted like that. Like,
well, it's not necessarily, I don't think you can take this one and necessarily run with like, oh, the peeps fucked us over, like,
right.
They should be held responsible.
That's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, for any peeps fans out there, I've said it on like the subreddit in like a comment. Somebody was out there saying like they enjoyed the production that we put on for them, and we still love the community that we managed to build while we were there. But we do encourage you to support Malekith and Bella as they take over on the broadcast. They will find their niche eventually. All right. So that's what the peeps wanted. They parted ways with us. I'm just saying, I wish that things had been a little bit more professionally handled with that situation.
Sure. Just at the end of the day, if you ever have casters around, just one caster or group of casters, saying this generally speaking, if you're ever gonna bring on a caster, like, try to pay them, even if it's only $5 or something. Just giving some form of compensation is always better than nothing, because there's a lot of people who try to get free work out of us, and it kind of sucks sometimes. And
there's a lot of people.
Well, there's a lot of people who expect free work, and there's a lot of people who also expect you to just, at the drop of a hat, be able to do stuff. And then if you can't,
and for cheap, And I've debated bringing this up as something, potentially to make somewhat of an entire episode about. I don't know how many people will listen to us, but the number of people out there, and it's not really a fault of theirs. I think it's just ignorance, but there is a whole lot of people who don't realize the amount of work, the amount of talent that people have to have, the amount of effort, energy, time, thought, everything that goes into doing what we do. And there are definitely some people who you can make claims do more than others. But like, I feel like it is criminally, at least in our scene right now, I feel like there is a large gap in where our current value is as seen by organizations or community or whatever, as to where it actually is. Like, I think there's a big gap as far as pay goes, as far as recognition for a couple of things go from different sources, and it's something I've considered talking about because it's important to me, and not just to myself but to the community as a whole. And this is only kind of the tip of the iceberg. Yes, Squid, I do feel bad. I really wish they would just reach out and say, look, man, we're sorry about the whole situation. Here's, would you accept however much money they're willing to give out. But
oh, okay, all right. I mean, we're still talking like payment terms. I mean,
sure, no, but
this is kind of the hill that you're going for, and I do agree with you on these points. But I still just want to make it clear because I know this. You know, I don't want to sound like
no,
this
I know
is
that.
their fault on all that, right? You know, this is a gamble that we took, but I still.
Well, it's also just like it's like, and I understand it's a gamble you took. It also is just there is a sense of like it's unfair though that you guys did put in so much work and stuff for them to
Right.
then just
We
not even feel like there was really consideration of even bringing y'all along into the fold with FaZe to be their caster still. Like that's more what makes this feel unfair. Is it's just you should still. Even if in your mind you know, like we're not bringing these casters along with us, we already have other plans that we've spoken to with FaZe. At least
we didn't get any communication.
Project
about that.
the image at least, like you are making an effort somewhere along the line. Like, just from our side, it feels a whole lot better when it feels like there's at least a smidgen of effort being made, because there are plenty of times where zero effort is made. So it's like. It's the rough life of being a caster.
Right. And I'm actually quite grateful, though, that Shope and Seb both did find their berth over at XSET. So shout outs to those guys. You know, they made it happen. But I agree with Ryan. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like if we could get some communication, we're here basically for casters' rights, all right? You know, treat us right. You know, we want to help you. We want to put on a good show for you.
Union.
But
No, I'm kidding.
if people just randomly drop us at the dime of the hat, or the drop of a hat on a dime, yeah, there you go, words. But if you drop us just like that without any feedback or prior information of like, hey, we're planning to, it's, you get situations like me. It's like I don't want to sound ungrateful for the opportunity that I got, but at the same time, I want to make it heard, that this is a little bit of, I feel, kind of injustice.
Look, ultimately, again, just the industry that we're in as talent in esports is already one that is very, very difficult to do anything in ever. Like it is such a competitive, stupid industry. Things are so backwards sometimes. I mean, seriously, things move.
I'm laughing because I'm laughing more just like, that's true. It's very true. And it's sad that it's true.
I mean, we have so far to go to be a legitimate, well-run industry inside esports, and there's always going to be more people than there are positions. You have to realize that if you're a caster.
Well,
however,
that's with anything.
Well, right, but however, in Rocket League specifically, we as a community group of casters, and I mean the four of us and people outside of us, Kendo in chat, I mean people who work CCA Rival, but also the newer casters who are working the smaller community events, just trying to find anything that they can do to get their brand and their name out there. It's already super, super, super difficult to do anything of value in Rocket League because of the way Psyonix has things structured. It's just how it is. It is what it is. And when you've got people who are coming to you and saying, look, we've got this tournament that we're looking to run. We've got these broadcasts we want to do. We like your work. Can you come on and do this for us? Oh, wait, but we don't have any money to pay you. It irks you after. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've been doing this in Rocket League. I've been casting since I was a teenager. I'm 26 years old right now. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been casting in Rocket League for 2.5 years. Yeah. And there's no respect there. I mean, maybe you don't know that, but you should at least have an inkling of like, if you want to hire me, I respect you for going and looking at my previous work. At least I have a Liquipedia page, for fuck's sake. Like if you want to see what I've done throughout my career and who I've worked for and what I've done, just go there and look that up and then come to me and don't say, look, man, we want you to do this for free. We can't pay you.
The only time I'm okay with that is if it's a charity stream.
Of
like
course,
we did for Akron.
I agree with that. Right. No, a charity, even, okay, I'm going to drop that there. I agree with you. Charity, yes. But outside of that, it's almost kind of a slap in the face when somebody approaches you and says, we don't have money, or they want to pay you so little, or they want such a large amount of work, such a great volume of work.
8-hour broadcast, no stopping.
Yeah, and it's, you know,
I've been asked that before.
I just, dude, we've worked them before. Like, it's happened.
We've all been there.
So it's, I mean, we all know how that feeling is. And I just want to say, the value that we are currently valued, in my opinion, and I don't care if I get shit for this from the community or whatever, we are being criminally underpaid for our amount of work compared to the rest of the industry, compared to other talent in other fields doing other things. And just talking to other people, Rocket League, for some reason, they seem to be, the org seem to think they can get away with paying us nothing. And it's frustrating. I mean, really, because I when somebody asks me what my day rate is, I'm often finding myself undervaluing myself because I don't want to lose another opportunity. But at the same time, I still feel like shit for some of the higher prices. Like, people, like, I will quote somebody and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's a little too much. Like, do you not realize, like, if you want quality talent, you have to pay money for it.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. And I need to leave it here because I'm going to go on forever and ever.
We'll have another episode where we discuss casting
Let me give you an example on this, though. I just want to say this one thing, because right now, what Hunted is saying is essentially right now, if you are an RLCS caster, chances are you could probably live off of that, at least at a baseline level. You might have a job on the side, but you could probably live on that. For us, who are, you know, Sleeky, me, Hunted, Ryan, we can't. We cannot do that.
Full-time job, baby.
Yeah, we absolutely cannot do casting as a living. No matter how much we want to put into this. Like, no matter how much work we want to put in this, no matter how much work we do put into this, we cannot do that.
And Exotic with the exact point. I just want to say this before we move on to the next thing. It's a catch-22. Either you undervalue yourself and get less than what you deserve, or you price yourself appropriately and get skipped over for someone cheaper. That, at the end of the day, that's the big issue with it all.
Yeah.
But we're going to leave it there. We'll do an episode one day where we just talk about caster life, you know, what some of the stuff we have to do behind the scenes prepare for it, you know, stories from when we were casting, things like that. I think that'll be a fun episode to do in and of itself. Fun fact before we move on. The one thing me and Hunted always make fun of for Squid is right before we went live once, he said, "You guys want to play Battlefield?" And it almost got caught on stream.
You got like the last end of that. The last end. It was me saying it was like Tullfield. Yep. And from that forevermore, I am the guy who wanted to play Battlefield.
So anytime Squid's in the booth now, me and Hunted make fun of him for that. But moving on to our next bit of information. Rizzo is going to be done playing professional Rocket League after this split. He announced that this will be his final split playing as a professional Rocket League player. He's going to move over to full-time content creation, which, you know, that makes sense for him. Like, that's his kind of big thing. So I'm just going to read out his long-ish tweet just so we have that context. So this is G2 Rizzo. Quote, "A lot of people were wondering about the G2 RL team at the end of last split with a few rumors here and there, and just want to point out that after winter split, I did try to step down from professional play and do full-time content. Due to complications with finding a player, we as a team decided it'd be best if I stuck around for the remainder of the season. With that said, we are willing to try other options and experiment this split. For the regional this weekend, I will be playing for the entirety of the event, and after that, we will be using our sub Dries to fill in for the grid and let him shine. I want to thank everybody who supported me for the rest of the team, the entirety of our time together. It means a lot to me that we've had all this continued support for so long, and I have so much love for you guys and for the G2 squad," end quote. So, yeah, so G2 did try to make that roster swap at the end. So it looks like those rumors of AJ being who they tried to scout might have been true. That fell through, and so they just kind of stuck it out. And so now they're going to make changes after this split, and they get a longer break because they have the break between RLCSX and then RLCS 11, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I for one am happy that he can kind of round out a long career like this. I wish he had a world's title. to be honest. Rizzo, he's one of the long-standing members of the Rocket League community that was here since day one. So it's a little bit disappointing to see him go without actually winning out Worlds. I mean, he's been there.
Yeah.
He's been in the Grand Finals before.
I was thinking about this, and actually I was talking about it with some of the RLC guys, and that was one of the things that, we were discussing Rizzo retiring, and somebody brought up the point, like, what else does he have to do? And, Worlds is one of those things. He hasn't had a Worlds title, but I also think it's kind of disappointing how crazy short a lot of careers are in esports in general. There are some players who will play for many years, and that's great. But it seems like Rocket League in specific, even with all of the potential that the game has, it seems careers seem to end quickly, right? Like, players will play for a few years, and when you compare that to some of the top players, like Rizzo has been on a top team for, 3 or 4 years now. I mean, that's, you compare that to sports, right? And those are kind of like the entry level years for a player. Like, you expect, especially in hockey or something like that, you expect a guy who can perform at that level to play for 10 years. And it's kind of disappointing that's been happening. And I know that it's going to continue, and there's a lot that needs to be done to change that. And of course, Rocket League, I think we've all kind of seen it's kind of a young man's game. But I don't know. I wonder if we will ever come to a point where the mechanics level kind of levels out enough to where, as you age, you can continue to play in Rocket League at the highest level, and we can see 10+ year careers from people.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing, at least for Rocket League, because you're kind of mentioning that one more in specific, is because some of these other games have been out so long that they've been out long enough that they've sort of found where the pro level is, and it's more plateaued, kind of, to where it's like it's a little bit easier to, once you hit that, kind of maintain it. With Rocket League, it's just. It still is amazing how much different even this season feels from, 2 seasons ago. It's just crazy how much growth, how high the ceiling still has to go. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about Rocket League, and also one of the things that harms it the most for if you ever want to become a pro, is just the skill ceiling just being so obnoxiously high at times, it feels like. And
Right.
I mean, for Rizzo, the good thing for him is he has established himself as this huge content creator. He draws 2,000 plus viewers per stream when he goes live on Twitch. So, like, he's going to be fine at the end of the day. And it's just more unfortunate when you look at some of these other players who, like, they still really were amazing players, but they just didn't have enough to still hang at that highest level. Because once you get to the highest level, it feels like you have to put in such insane hours to remain competitive.
Well, I mean, we have examples of that already. I mean, Pashy 90, Remco are the 2 big ones that I can think of. That's like, they simply could not hang with the curve, right?
Yeah.
It got away from them super fast. And I mean, even when Pashy, he retired, he came back into the game. He tried to qualify for Rival Series with a team that was like, oh, yeah, they should make it. And they got destroyed.
Steve could do some damage.
I mean, that story, I was still looking at it because we were talking about him a couple of weeks ago, but Gambit's kind of the same way, if you remember Gambit from way back in the day. But I think you have to put current pros into 2 categories. You have pros like Kronovi, like Pashy, like Cuxier, that were the old guard, that are truly old guard, like from the original game.
Yeah, sorry.
And when the game first came out and everybody's just kind of scrambling to get good at the game. So it makes sense for those players to fall off, because you have to make the argument that as more people get involved, there are going to be more naturally talented people joining the game. So if you look at players like Justin, who is kind of like the poster boy for that kind of new blood injected into the game, and the level they achieve, I think then you have to kind of look at what they do with their careers.
Yeah.
So Rizzo is still old guard, in my opinion, right? He was around.
That's true.
I mean, you mentioned it. So maybe maybe my point is premature, and maybe these players play forever. Who knows? But It does kind of suck, and it's funny because my first ever real love of esports was StarCraft, and you have players. I mean, I still think StarCraft is one of, if not the hardest esport ever to ever be a professional player in, and you have players like Flash from the old Brood War days, who I mean, he won his first tournament, I think, in 2008. 2007. He took a while off because he had military service, but after that, I mean, it's 2021 and he's winning Brood War tournaments now. He's 28 years old and he's playing in one of the most difficult to play in esports and continues to succeed. And I wonder if it's less about the skill that's involved and it's more about, Rizzo making money streaming probably a little bit better than playing. It's probably a lot less stressful. And I bet. I wonder if the incentive is not there right now in esports to continue your career as a player. And I mean, we're in a different time. Like, I mean, we're in a different space, right? Football players don't have that outlet of like streaming every day, right? They play football and make a ton of money. They don't stream themselves playing football and make money on the side. So I don't know. I think it's weird. I hope we see long careers. That's
the
all.
advice currently I would give to a lot of esports pros though is, while you are still at this higher level, definitely try to monetize your time and start something up on the side with broadcasting and streaming, because you can definitely turn that into a career if you decide to leave ever.
No, absolutely. And I think this is like something that every esports involved person should do. I mean, eventually you're going to get up to the point of like Shroud. He gets, I don't even know how much freaking money from broadcasting, his gameplay. And all he has to do is go on there, be good at the game. He's developed a personality. I think Shroud is one of the better streamers out there. But for just Squishy, I mean, he goes on his stream, he could just not even talk at all.
Oh yeah,
and just like play lo-fi music.
He could have a no mic stream and he'd still get 3K viewers.
He does. I'm pretty sure there are people out there who do no mic, no face cam, no game audio. It's just lo-fi and them playing Rocket League, and they freaking rake it in, right? I think that's what Rizzo wants. And I mean, speaking on the new blood that Hunt had mentioned, I think that Rocket League especially is a game where experience doesn't really net you as much as it's worth in like other games like CSGO, where it's much more of a mind game. StarCraft also, in that same vein, I could argue, is more of a mind game. With the micromanaging, with the counter strategies and all that stuff. I mean, Rocket League is more of like if you hit the buttons
and that's
you're going to be a god.
At some point, you wonder, are we going to hit a point where it's like mechanically there's no really point beyond this? Like you're just like as proficient as you'll become. Yes. And then Rocket League starts developing from this mechanical game into more of the mind game of like, okay, now because we're all so confident in our mechanics and we know what we're going to be able to do, let's go for this play. You kind of wonder at what point do we maybe hit that. And I think eventually it'll become that. I think we're still ways off from that because everybody in the scene has to be at that level, I think, for it to develop to that. But, I mean, again, the ceiling's just ridiculous.
We even see the smart players like Rizzo, for instance. He was never huge on the mechanics. He was one of the smart players, but we even see the smart players start to delve into those mechanics more and more, right? So I mean, even for me as a somewhat casual player, I have competed, a couple of times here and there, never at the top level. But even for me, being a smart player, I have tons of experience in the game. My analytical brain, I like to think, is pretty good, and I've received feedback from other people who are like, yeah, I think that's pretty smart. The way that I play the game or the way that I want to play the game is pretty smart, but my lack of mechanical ability is what really keeps me down. So I think that's.
Just find it nuts, man, that we have like 19-year-old kids who are saying, "Oh, I'm done with Rocket League esports. I just can't do it."
We're gonna get Scrub Killer retiring here. Like, what the hell's going on?
I think part of it is also like Psyonix lets 15-year-olds compete in the top level, and you start young and you're going to end young. I think. It's ultimately kind of how it goes, but at the same time, I don't think the pay is good enough. Like, I don't think orgs pay well enough to fill salaries.
Unless you happen to get into one of the top orgs, you ain't getting that kind of money.
But even then, I mean, like just comparatively, and I trust me, I get it. Esports does not make nearly the amount of money that the NFL makes, that the NHL makes, whatever. But like you look at a young gun who, even if he's a middling player or a player, I'm just going to use the NHL because I know it the most. But you have a 30 goal scorer for your team. He's a very good player. You want him on your team, but he's not Alex Ovechkin, right? He's not scoring 50 goals a season. You're still paying him like $5 million a year.
True.
And these players, Squishy, Justin, whoever, anybody, the entire BDS team doesn't even approach that at all. And they're winning champion after championship after championship, and they make their money through Psyonix prize pools. But, like, the incentive is not there. I guarantee you BDS, well, I don't know how much they're paying them. I would be surprised if the team as a whole is even reaching $500,000 a year. I would be surprised.
Last I checked, or last time I had kind of looked into it, it was something like the highest paid players make something like 8 to 15K a month.
So what's 15 times 12? It's $180,000. Okay. I mean, fair enough. So, but I mean, still, like, that doesn't even come close. Like, entry level contract guys are more than that in the NHL, right? Or it's roughly $100,000. You're making six figures just being a taxi squad player, playing in the minor league, making six figures, and we're not even anywhere close to that. I think CS:GO orgs are actually starting to pay quite well, and I know League of Legends has for a while.
League and OWL and COD all pay. Like, they're actually all salaried and shit, and like.
I feel like Dota 2 is probably the same thing, considering that TI has a cumulative prize pool over 20 million. So.
Yeah.
But the tier 1 esports are all those players are all salaried at this point because they're playing at such a stupidly high level and they're playing in such a big game. And Rocket League's getting to that point. I think eventually we're going to see Rocket League get to that point where you start seeing players get salaried and everything. But
well, yeah, maybe we see full franchises and stuff. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know where we'll go. I just the money's got to be there. I think if you're gonna have people make careers out of their
right. Otherwise, it's all about branding. I mean, we already touched on that. It's all about branding. You can't do this forever.
But yep. So as far off track as we kind of got there, G2 Rizzo, he's done after this season. He's gonna move on to content creation. We can just talk, man.
Kendo actually said in the chat earlier on, Rizzo is a pretty good personality.
Yeah,
I like Rizzo. I do.
He really is, and excited to see where his content creation leads him. Curious to see if he's going to continue down the path of doing Rocket League content creation, or if he's going to try and branch out into other things. I know he also streamed like Rust and stuff there with the offline TV server, so it'll be interesting. But moving on,
disappointing that Rizzo is retiring before we see fully LAN environments for Rocket League esports. Because you talk about content creation, and I think you look at things like League, who everything's in-house at Riot, right? So, they how much content they're able to pump out of their players and teams. And Rizzo, I mean, you guys make a good point. He's a very good personality. I think he could be one of those lead personalities of players in Rocket League if he's stuck around. But unfortunately,
always going to be a character. But moving on, we're going to dive into... this is a long episode. But we're going to talk about the European Spring Regional 1, discuss how that one played out. It finished out last weekend. We talked about the group stage on the last episode, and then this happened immediately following our episode. So, knockout gauntlet, I mean, definitely this is an interesting one. I was a little surprised to see Top Blokes go out early. I hope they were going to make the final day, and they didn't. But Godsmilla's team, that one was impressive.
I agree with you.
What's more to say about it, honestly?
I'd be surprised that another random team does, well in Europe.
I think what's a little bit more surprising to me is the performance from the White Demons. That was rather impressive, if you ask me. I mean, they took down...
You even mentioned them in our episode before that. Like, what happens if the White Demons wins 2 in a row in the knockout stage? That's exactly what happens.
They take down Galaxy Racer. They take down Top Blokes, which I'm going to match Ryan's sentiment. That was a little bit surprising, but these things do happen. Vitality, though, and BDS, the 2 teams at the top. Wow.
Shocker! Big shocker!
Really, it truly is. I mean, Vitality, they're really only competing with Giants at this point to try. And I think somebody actually posted on the Reddit recently that they are on the cusp of securing themselves a world spot. So EU, about to be a very
narrow field.
Fight.
Can we talk about what the actual fuck happened to Dignitas? Like, everybody was like, so high on Dignitas coming into the major. They played all right, and then they just bombed the hell out of this regional. Like, what is happening? I can't trust anybody. I can't trust anyone in Europe. I can't trust anything besides BDS.
Hey, honestly, I think at this point, even the Europeans don't know what the hell is going on because
it's crazy.
It's literally just Team BDS, Renault Vitality, and then just everybody else.
Like, it's nuts. Both Ricks and Top Blokes beat Dignitas in that group stage, and then they lost to Endpoint in the first round of the knockout
Endpoint
bracket.
and Aether.
I don't get it, man. I don't understand.
Dude, this is why Europe has always been this way, though. I mean, that's the problem. Is like, we just stopped following Europe.
Yeah, Europe. At one point,
like, wow,
Europe just always have like a top team and then everybody else.
We should just change the podcast to Talk It League NA and sometimes Sam and OCE.
Sometimes other regions.
We forget EU exists.
EU, it's like, all right. I mean, Riot said it best. It's like we got Team BDS, we got Team Vitality. Those are at the top, and then everybody else is just a lottery of like who's going to be good. I mean, it used to be Team Liquid. What was the Guild. Used to be Giants. Who the fuck is in the top?
There was the meme that
for 3 games.
What was it though? the meme that like showed up on the subreddit, and it like shows the like placeholders like at the end of a championship, and it shows like a guy holding the medal at the top of the podium. It says Team BDS. The guy in second place is Vitality, and then the third guy is just like a dude blasting champagne into his face. It's like whoever decides to pop off that day.
It's the truth. Nobody ever knows who's going to perform in Europe. Like,
it's so absurd.
Always a toss-up.
Well, that means definitely Dignitas top 4. I'm surprised you guys haven't made the argument that Dignitas will be a dynasty team in Europe.
I don't know enough to say anything. I can't say anything.
And then yell at me for saying I need more consistency out of them.
How dare you doubt Team Singularity?
I'm surprised.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, the difference is that
they have Scrub.
Good results. The difference is that Rogue had constantly good results in regionals. All right, calm down.
I'm trying to point out how stupid it would be for me to try and form an opinion over Europe. Because that's what my small brain would do. Is I'd be like, Scrub. And you look at the results and knockout first round, Dignitas.
Let's talk about that though, because Scrub, he was at one point in time the rookie to pick up. Like, he was the Justin of EU, and now he is just completely flopped out. I mean, Scrub had such a promising career. He was the rookie that everybody was talking about before he was a rookie, because he wasn't old enough to compete in the RLCS, and now he's completely flubbed out by this point. Like, well, not completely, obviously, but I mean, he's never really stood a chance, it seems.
Well, I think his controversies didn't help.
Yeah, I would say Scrub has probably had way more controversies than your average player.
Remind me what we're talking about. I mean, which controversies? I mean, he's got a couple in the history.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All of them, like any of them.
I can't remember. Like, are there any specific?
Okay,
but no, it's just like
who I remember. No, I mean, for real. The one I remember, I think it was the most recent one, is when he, like, either him or what's his name, Tho, was tilted during a game, so they weren't calming. So
he went to Lawler's voice channel. Yes, I remember. I remember that one. Yeah, right. Scrub. I don't know what the hell he was thinking.
But it's also
like one of many he's had, and he's a young player, and I still think he could probably fit in well somewhere. If like, I just worry that maybe he's blacklisted himself from some of the top teams. They don't want to play with him because of all this bullshit.
Maybe. I still feel like, though, if you're a good enough player, people are going to play with you no matter what. I think that's probably true for a hell of a lot of players, because guess what? Everybody in the Rocket League scene is a freaking child. And I don't mean that because they literally are. I mean that because some of them have the personality of a child.
I mean, there's
kinda
a lot
just
of
treat
really
it like a
young
joke.
players. Like, I'm 10 years older
I'm saying there
than
are some,
your average
there's some
player.
really
That's
toxic
weird.
players out there. It doesn't matter how toxic you are are still going to get top spot. I mean, think of Insolences or Chrome. The way that Chrome used to be. He's a lot better now. But the way that Chrome used to be, like, he still played on top teams. He played for Evil Geniuses as a world once, but he was toxic as fuck. Like, there's no two ways about it. Insolences was the same way. He was a toxic tryhard. But guess what? He still was good at the game, and he still got on top teams as a result. So it doesn't matter. I don't think. I just think that scrub might be washed up at this point.
Who knows? But they have it. Team BDS, another one under the belt. They deserved that 2-year
and
extension.
No one
their
was
contracts.
surprised.
No, I don't think.
Okay, let's talk about 2 years though. After seeing what happened to
2 years
Space
is crazy.
Station, 2 years is a long ass time, dude.
And look at G2. I mean, literally, G2 extended their contracts 2 years ago, or for 2 years a year ago, and now Rizzo is retiring. Like, yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to our length of career. Like, 2 years is like 90% of half of these players' careers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of nuts.
I don't know what they were thinking. When I first saw that, I was like, "You're kidding, right? Like, you're capping right now." But I guess
it still is like hard to believe when you see those happen. But I am always happy when I see those, because I believe it helps push us towards the point where these players do have longer careers.
Maybe.
So it's right now we look at them as if they're insane, but in the future we'll be like, oh, only 2 years, Team BDS. Why don't you sign them for 5? Like, come on, that's an amazing team.
70-year contract.
70-year long contract.
Yeah, team. The funniest thing to me about EU though is Renault Vitality is about to lock in second place to go to Worlds from Europe off of getting points for second place only, basically. Like,
well,
that's
I mean,
nuts.
Okay, it's getting points for second place, but it's because they're getting second place for the team that's already locked in as
No,
first.
but that's what's so funny about it is literally like the top 2 teams are just locking in because one locked in already because they just keep winning everything. They're always about to lock it in just because they keep getting second, and then it's just about to become a massive free for all.
Yeah,
people are like, just lock in already, Vitality, so the rest of us can just start fighting.
All right, so here's the real question: is it going to be Mark by 8, Monkey Moon, or Extra, who becomes the most winningest player in Rocket League over top of Turbo Pulsar just by dominating Europe throughout the entirety of COVID-19? Like, what the hell, bro? It's actually kind of insane.
Well, none of them have won a world championship, so let's slow down here.
Slow your roll.
I'm actually checking their winnings, and they're all very close, within $3,000 of each other.
Well, yeah, because all they've ever won is on TBDS. None of them have won anything prior to this.
Yeah, they were an RS team. Which, again, let's reiterate a point that we made a while back on the podcast. These were like RS players back in Season 4. All of them were,
and they
in
were
the
getting
series.
Destroyed too when they made it to
RLC.
When they made it to RLCS, their first season, they got dominated because wasn't this
their first season, yes.
What was their name back in the day? ARG? No.
Hang on.
There were a couple of them. They weren't.
They
weren't a team.
Discombobulators.
Yeah.
That was their name.
Yeah.
And they just got demolished.
But that was prior. That was prior to. They had a roster change though.
Oh yeah. But it's just like
Team BDS,
it's crazy how much
BDS,
one roster move can do.
February 3, 2020, they acquired ARG, and then Extra joined in place of Klayax. That's what happened.
Yeah,
so
I still think it's a meme. I still think like the.
I don't know how they made
it. It's just a huge conspiracy. All the European players came together and said, "Let's just make people not understand Rocket League at all, and let a couple of RL." Or a couple of rival series guys dominate for season 10, and we'll get back to normal.
Let's think about this. I'm looking at the rankings right now. The ratings, the Wikipedia ratings for these teams. Team BDS, a 16 win streak, sitting at 3,029 rating, team vitality 2772, and then it's like very close between Giants, Dignitas, Solari, and Guild in the 2,500 range. That's just
They're
ridiculous
nuts.
to me. That's so insane. I mean, the next highest win streak is Cringe Society in OCE, and then outside of that, it's like 3. So
Well,
Cringe
funny
Society have an
'cause
8-win streak. BDS with 16, and then next highest is 3 with NRG.
It's funny
and some
though because
other
it's like
select
when
NA
you go
teams.
when you go to most teams, you can do an overview and scroll down, and it'll show you like their best achievements in recent
Yeah.
times. And you go to theirs, and it's literally just first place. Like that's in achievements, it just shows first place, first place, first place, first place. You go to any other team, and it's gonna show you at least like 1 second place. Like nobody else has that right now. Like
Okay, all right. Let me throw a stat your way. Overall series win percentage: 178 wins, 61 losses, 74.48% win percentage for Team BDS on their series.
It just
That
proves
is
that
just-
the matchmaking's garbage. They're not getting any NA teams.
You are right there.
oh
But
gosh.
seriously, that is fucking insane. Like, there's no two ways about it. Team BDS with almost a 75% win percentage.
Just insane.
I don't even know. I'm lost. I'm
It's
lost for
crazy.
words.
Oh man, oh man. But there you have it. That's EU. We are now going to roll on into our hot take as we get ready to close down the show. Finally, this has been a really long episode. And today's hot take comes from Undead? Undead? Was it you?
Yep.
Was it you? Okay.
Yeah,
It
sure,
comes
I
it
can,
comes Wait, did we agree? Was it you?
Yeah,
Yeah, we did. What? Ryan,
okay.
you
I'm-
using your
I was-
ears, bro? What's
I was
going
I
on?
was confused. Like he seemed hesitant, so I was like I just couldn't tell.
Yeah, so I'm gonna follow up what I said I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, with the hot take, and I'm going to say that FaZe X Peeps are top 4 in North America now, and I will explain why. Because they're top 4 in North America, everybody else kind of sucks. So, yeah, but for real, I think that for NA, I think the only way that this works, that FaZe is top 4, is because I can't conclusively say who is actually top 4. Like, again, it goes back to the point I was making earlier, that like Space Station losing to version 1, is that a surprise? I honestly can't tell you. We haven't seen that matchup in a long time. Like, it feels like of recent, Space Station has kind of fallen off a little bit. G2, we know, has definitely fallen off, the hype train, though they played decently here in the first day of the regionals. I think you can make a case for FaZe, especially now that they're in their honeymoon phase with their new org. They're going to be playing well, and at the very least, through this split, I think they will prove themselves to be a top 4 team in NA, and surprisingly, I think Rogue will as well. I know you probably you're gonna get mad. I'm not saying that they are right now. I think they will prove themselves to be, because they will have consistent results, though they did lose the X set. But I think FaZe, again, I think the whole signing, the whole pickup is huge. We see teams do this all the time. They play super well after getting signed, and I have a feeling that's going to happen to them here. And I don't know about Space Station, man. Their recent results are kind of shaky. Some of their losses, I'm actually considering dropping them down to 5th, 6th potentially in the region if they can't turn things around.
I would like to reiterate at least the first point that you made, which I found to be incredibly interesting, and not in a good way, is the fact that you said I would argue that FaZe Clan is top 4 because we don't know definitively who is top 4. And I think that was a very fascinating and out of left field take.
But it's true. It's true.
That is not a good rationale. Just because you can't say who the top
matter.
4 are does not mean that you can say.
I think I don't know who they are, but I think
no.
I think FaZe is in it. Does
I don't
that count? That counts. Top 4. I don't know. I don't know who's top 4. I think NRG, FaZe, NV, and I don't know who the 4th is yet. It could be Space Station, could be Rogue. I don't think it's G2, but I think FaZe. I think FaZe is in the top 4 or will be. I don't know if they are right now based off of recent results, but I think like for this split, I think let me just change it to make it as level as possible. I think this split, what are we in spring split? FaZe will prove themselves to be top 4 in North America throughout the split.
I like how you say during this split when the only result we've had out of them this split is going 4-0 in group stages. That's clever.
But,
very nicely done.
I pulled up the spring rankings currently, and these are our top 4. So I think you're both wrong.
Oh, that's not. Shut up! Get that shit out of my face, Ryan.
The only 4 teams who've gotten any points because they've all been eliminated.
I mean, why? I want to address Squid what you're saying. Why is that weird when the only thing that this pertains to is upcoming Rocket League anyway? Like we could talk about who was top 4 a year ago. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. We're talking about who's top 4 right now, and I think this split. If we want to talk about this split, I think FaZe will be top 4 when everything is done. I think FaZe will be top 4 in NA.
I mean, you do mention that they have the honeymoon phase with their org, and they did put up a good result today. However, I will cite the fact that they had good results versus version 1 in the past, and Space Station is on a historically huge downhill right now for as far as the Rocket League scene is concerned. So I think that this may have been a bit of a fluke at the beginning. And Hawks does make a good point here in the chat that TSM and Liquid are both huge orgs that upon picking up their teams absolutely flopped. Like, it was not even a question. Like, TSM, they did have some solid results in the future from then on, but Liquid, they did not have the same story. And
but you can't use Liquid as a thing because the team was struggling pretty hard when Liquid picked them up.
Okay, well, we made the argument the last time here that when we were talking about the Peeps versus, or we were talking about Peeps versus Rogue,
and that's
argument,
Europe. Who gives a fuck
around.
about Europe? We're talking about North America. We already said Europe doesn't matter in this podcast. We just said that.
I'm sorry. Was I not just trying to make a correlative point to what our discussion was last time?
I don't care about your discussion last time. I care about the discussion today. We're saying NA is the only region that we care about. So who cares if Team Liquid?
Okay, well, I was just about to make a point that actually pertains to NA. Can I make my point now, Hunted?
Yes, now you can. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the last time we had this conversation where you didn't want to say that Rogue was a top 4 team,
yes,
even though they had consistent results during the winter split and then did incredibly well during the major. Yes, they did. During the regionals, they absolutely did. As soon as they picked up Taroko, they absolutely did. But for FaZe Clan, they did not have those results. We specifically went over the results in comparison to Rogue when we were having this conversation. We noted that there were a significant number more 5th, 6th, or lower placements that they had as opposed to Rogue. So I think that what you're saying right now is that you're not sure if Rogue is in the top 4, but you're putting FaZe Clan up there. That's bullshit. Because Rogue had the results in the winter split.
Listen,
and we only have
you're
one
confusing
day.
What I said.
2 days of matches.
You're confusing what I said. I'm not. Look. Okay. You can make an argument of whoever you want in the top 4 right now at this very moment. I'm saying when everything is said and done, I see FaZe being top 4.
I'm telling you that they did not have the results in order to have me put them in the top 4, whereas Rogue did. That's why I'm saying I don't believe that they're going to make it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that once again, when the split is over, you're going to be wrong again on the podcast because I'm telling you, I still think Rogue needs more consistent results after losing to XSET. They're a young team, and young teams historically.
It's fine. We'll talk next Thursday when the Peeps go 2 rounds and out in the elimination bracket, and Rogue end up making it to the finals.
They are FaZe now.
They're the Peeps to me, goddammit!
They're not the Peeps anymore. Sorry. You have to call them FaZe. And this was my hot take, and you're literally trying to take it over with your stupid Rogue bullshit. I don't care about Rogue. I care about
what kind
FaZe,
of a hot take?
What
kind of a hot take would it be without somebody arguing against it, anyways? Get that shit out of here.
You can argue it, but you're coming back around to Rogue. I don't give a fuck about Rogue.
Count me as not convinced. Yeah, because you said as an integral part of your hot take was that Rogue was not a top 4 team, but you thought that FaZe Clan could be.
Ryan, did I not say that I think Rogue could definitely be top 4 team at the end of the split?
He did say it could be Rogue or Space Station in the other spot. He did say that.
I definitely did say that.
He
And
did
you're going
say
on this
that.
tangent about Rogue.
If you think,
I don't
if you
care
think
about
that
Rogue.
He
could
just-
be,
he-
if you think that Rogue could be top 4, and but you think FaZe will be based on the previous
Yes.
results that we had from the winner split, I
It's
call
a
bullshit.
hot take, Squid. Yes,
I
don't
know,
care
and that's
about
why I
Rogue.
disagree with you,
I'm
because it's a
talking
hot
about
take.
FaZe
Fuck off.
right
Get
now.
that shit out of here.
You're so stuck on Rogue. I don't care about Rogue. I'm talking about FaZe and what I think they're going to do now that they got signed and now that they have a good roster who's played together for a long time.
What do
I
you mean
think
now
they're
that they
going
have
to
a
be
good
top
roster?
4 in the
They didn't have a
split.
good roster before? They didn't have a good roster before now, Hunted. Is that what you're
No,
saying? You just said now that they have a good roster. Get that
Dude,
shit out of here.
No, I said
Get
now
that
that
shit out
they're
of here.
signed and they have a good roster who has
All
played
right.
together for a long time. You were
Raise your hand.
taking-
Raise your hand if you're convinced of Hunted's hot take.
Dude, you are taking the weirdest stances to this one point. Like you're trying to pick apart these weird little things.
Nope.
Bro, I'm just saying.
I'm saying that you're putting a lot of confidence in a team here when you refuse. They have not had good results. They historically
and now
have had
he
fucking
brings
terrible
up
results.
Rogue again. I'm so tired of this. Dude, I don't care.
I don't get it.
This is a
I
hot
don't get
take.
it.
I'm saying that I think I said it with version 1, and you guys shit on me back then. You would not give me the benefit of the doubt that I thought version 1 would improve and have to be in the discussion for top 6 in the region. And guess what? Version 1 has improved, and now they're going to be in the discussion for top 6 in the region this split. And you cannot deny that. And you refuse to give me the benefit of the doubt that I see FaZe now continuing along
All right,
the
hot take part 2
Okay.
in version 1.
Okay,
Ryan,
okay,
what are your
okay,
thoughts
okay,
on that
okay.
one?
No, we're done. We're done. We're done.
Oh goodness.
All right.
No.
For one of you who are watching here on Twitch, clip this because I want to see who's going to be wrong by the time we get to the end of the split. Hunted's claim is that FaZe will be in top 4, not top 10, top 4 by the end of the spring split. Squid's is that they will not. Clip it. I want to see who's right, and I want to. We're gonna have to tweet this out on the
And if
main
Rogue
page.
also is top 4,
We have to come up with a punishment
that
for one of
is-
you guys.
That is 1,000% okay. I think that they would be totally deserving of top 4 as long as they improve their consistency. Rogue, you're on my good list, though I want to see you not lose to XSET next time, please.
Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Just
I
saying.
can't believe it.
Squid-
when I said
Squid-
Rogue's top
Squid is
4, he's
also
not
good.
convinced, and now
Squid,
he's like, I like
Are
Rogue.
you just mad that Sleegy's not here so you can't like fight with someone? Are you trying to take this out on Hunted? Because
Dude,
that's what
I
it
got the
feels
pent-up
like.
rage,
It
dude.
feels like you're
Normally-
trying to take
normally
it
I
out on
don't
Hunted
really-
because Sleegy's been absent for so
Nah.
long.
Nah. You know what I'm taking out on Hunted is that Hunted's doing basically word for word the same thing that I did, except I had basis for what I was saying, and he's fucking trying to trash me.
Okay, that's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you for joining us. Squid, get your final word in here. Anything you want to let people know about or anything like that before we head off for the night?
Man,
I could let you guys fight off stream, but I gotta go eat food at some
no,
point.
I'm just trying to think if I actually have anything to say. I don't know, because it might be contradictory. I don't necessarily believe that the peeps will do well.
Don't
but
contradict
I
yourself,
certainly-
man.
I
Hunted will
certainly
eat you
hope that they
alive.
do. I certainly hope that they do.
Bro, I have proven time and again that I have never railed against somebody for their thoughts and opinions on this show. It has always been y'all versus me when it comes to this. Unless Sleepy says something really fucking stupid. That's the only time. But outside of that, I feel like I've been pretty open-minded to people. It's just you guys get mad when I say stuff and then they happen. Like I don't know what you want from me. But ultimately, I will end the show with thank you, North America, for finally being fun again and not boring when we have the same 4 teams
That's true.
that are constantly winning. And I can't even have this argument because I wouldn't
For
believe it.
UNRG.
Yeah,
So-
we're not able to have this argument for EU.
No,
EU
you're
is
right.
just,
well,
yeah.
I mean, we certainly could. It's just there's no. You have BDS Vitality, and then
Lord knows.
That's,
Everyone.
you can't really
It's like
prove
a list
point.
of 9 or 10 teams
If
that
you
are
draw-
all like.
I
third
mean,
place.
it would be akin to drawing from a hat which teams end top 4 at the end of the split.
Whoever
And you
decides
can't really.
that meme
hold
is
that
still
over
so
anyone.
perfect. Third place. Whoever decides to pop off that day.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I don't know. Best of luck, teams in North America. EU, I love you. I believe in you. You can do it. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Before I roll into the final closeout, my final thing that I want to bring up real quick and point out is I've been watching Ludwig's subathon on Twitch, where every time you subscribe to him, it gets 10 seconds added to his clock. He's been streaming for 5 days now, but it got me looking into Twitch analytics, and Rocket League is number 5 in all of Twitch in terms of average viewership. That's nuts. I never knew this. I never knew this until I saw this, so I just want to pull it up real fast, show people. Rocket League, number 5 in average viewership. And they have streamed far longer than any of the other broadcasts. So that's not just comparing us to Riot Games or anything. This is against everybody in Twitch. That's awesome.
Not to mention we have the most hours watched based on that. That's insane.
Yeah, and not to mention we have the most number of times somebody said drops in chat. So
we do have our claim to fame in there as well. But that was just a cool piece of information that I found out recently, and I just thought that was really cool, and I wanted to share it. But that is going to do it for us here today, guys. Long episode. At this point, I'm not even sure we should even bother having a cap for the timer. We said this is going to be an hour-long show. They can argue for 10 minutes, and I can just sit here and laugh my ass off about it. But we're going to close it down here tonight. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. Do all those things wherever you are listening from. We would greatly appreciate it. We know we haven't been too good about posting on stuff lately. We're going to try and get a little bit better about that. And we're also going to start posting over on our YouTube as well. Just go search Talk It Podcast. Basically the same name as what you see here for the Twitch channel.
Podcast literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Easy,
so
simple.
Go search for it. 5 stars, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next time. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out.